All right, let's continue speaking about what are war crimes. And we are joined actually by an expert, Maria Varaki, and she's a lecturer in international law at the War Studies Department at King's College London. But she joins us from Thessaloniki in Greece. Maria, welcome to the programme. My colleague, Ali Mustafa, right now was just standing in front of a mass grave there in Bucha. Tell us, he said it is more complicated than that, than just to use that word war crimes for what allegedly happened there. In your opinion, have war crimes been committed by both sides? And what do we know at this stage?
Well, being an international lawyer myself, I will use a very cautious language. I would say that we have signs that raise questions about possible or alleged, as we say, war crimes. Deliberate targeted and killing, executions of civilians, torture, several forms of sexual violence, according to the reports and testimonies we have from the ground, they indicate a commission of those crimes. However, we require and we need a legal determination. At this stage, what it takes place on the ground is that several actors collect evidence. It's very important to collect credible evidence. It's very important to complete effective and independent investigation and then preserve this evidence, analyze this evidence, and based on the new technologies we have, to use all the tools we have in our hands, such as photographic images, satellite images, but also testimonies, as I say, of survivors, and try to allocate alleged perpetrators of those atrocities.
And what sort of evidence would you need to convict possibly Russians of genocide?
Well, we have a variety of evidence. As I told you a couple of days ago, Human Rights Watch published a report based on testimonies they took from victims who had been subjected to violence. On the other hand, since 2014, on the territory of Ukraine, the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission operates. So we have independent UN civil servants who operate on Ukraine. At the same time, the International Criminal Court has investigation teams who try to collect evidence. As I told you, it's a very difficult process. It's a very challenging task. We are talking about an ongoing armed conflict. There are areas where no one can go there. We don't know exactly what happened there. So it will take time in order to be able to process, to collect and process effectively and independently that type of evidence.
And I'm using the word genocide here because you made a very good point. We have to be very careful with the language we use. But President Zelensky, he stood at a mass grave and asked the world for this to be recognized, Russia's war crimes to be recognized as genocide. I just want to ask about the time frame and further on where this all goes, and how long could it take for Russians possibly involved in alleged military atrocities to be brought to justice? Because just this week we're seeing Darfur, after nearly 2 decades, having its first hearing at The Hague. That's 2 decades.
Yeah, it's very true that international criminal justice is a slow process, but that doesn't mean that we should undermine its importance, its validity. These are very, very difficult proceedings for all the reasons that I mentioned before. We're talking about an ongoing armed conflict. We're talking about witnesses who might have been intimidating, people who don't want to talk about their trauma, especially if they're victims of sexual violence, of gender violence. So those proceedings are very difficult proceedings, very challenging ones, and they may take a long time. And this is one of the most frequent critiques against the project of international criminal justice, because people want to see justice, whatever justice means. They want to see justice being done now. So the last days I keep talking to several media requests, and they ask me about that, when we are going to see arrest warrants. Well, legally speaking, we have to be again very, very careful. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court will proceed when he considers that there are reasonable grounds that some crimes have been committed in order to apply for arrest warrants and tie those
Maria,
atrocities.
if I could just jump in very quickly, we don't have much time, but you know, the U.S. ambassador to the UN said, Linda Thomas Greenfield, that based on the current available information, the United States has assessed that members of Russia's forces have committed war crimes in Ukraine. That's being said at the UN Security Council with a very firm conviction.
Yeah, I heard yesterday, I followed the Security Council session. It was not only the US ambassador, other countries as well, the British as well, make the same claim that they have intelligence. As I told you, we are in an era where technology helps a lot. I'm talking about the satellite images, I'm talking about other types of technologies. So things are very much different than 10 years or 20 years ago. So maybe, you know, this type of technologies, maybe they will, to some extent, accelerate the process, at least of collection of evidence.
Very interesting to hear about the technology. Maria Varaki, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate your insight and expertise.